Welcome to CEO Insights. I'm Marilyn de Guzman with Investing News Network. Today, I'm joined by two executives from Forum Energy Metals, Rick Mazur, President and CEO, and the company's VP of Exploration, Dr. Rebecca Hunter. Nice to have you both.
Nice to be here.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Yes, so good to have you. So, Rick, the last time we spoke, we talked about the increasing demand for uranium, driven by the reemergence of nuclear energy as low-carbon, more sustainable alternative for fossil fuel-based power generation. Now, Rebecca is here to talk about, so we can delve into the details a little bit more about your company's projects and exploration plans. But before we do that, if you could just provide an introduction to our viewers about what Forum Energy Metals is and what your projects are.
Well, sure, Marilyn. Forum Energy Metals is listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol FMC, and we're over the counter in the United States on the QB, FDCFF. I started the company in 2004 as a uranium company. It was called Forum Uranium, and then we pivoted into energy metals in 2018 when we could see the move for a net carbon zero economy and the need for electrification. So we not only have uranium, which is a critical mineral for nuclear energy, we also got involved in some projects in copper, which is used for energy transmission, obviously, electrical transmission. And then the battery metals. We have some projects in nickel and cobalt.
So that's quite a bit of a portfolio of assets. Could you talk a bit more about your company's business model and exploration strategy?
Yeah, sure. Well, number one, we focus on safe jurisdiction, and that's Canada. Canada is a very safe jurisdiction where you can explore and develop mines to production. Well, our current assets are in Saskatchewan and Nunavut. Secondly, we focus on world-class deposits. We started out the company looking for unconformity-style uranium deposits in the Athabasca Basin, which is a world-class part of the planet for uranium. And then we also focus in underexplored geological terrains that have tremendous opportunity for the development of a world-class deposit. For example, we got involved in the Janus Lake Copper Project in Saskatchewan, which we ended up optioning to Rio Tinto for a couple of years, and they spent $14 million on that project. A potential, world-class sedimentary copper-style project. And we've just recently picked up some very key strategic claims in the Thelon Basin of Nunavut for uranium, which we can talk about a little bit later. And lastly, strong management. We've got a good team on the board of directors. I've got a good team in the back office and with CFOs and corporate secretary, executive people, and more importantly, the technical management. And that's where someone like Rebecca comes in, who's just recently joined us as Vice President of Exploration here at Forum.
Right. And I want to speak to Rebecca a little later about specific exploration plans for the company. But before I do that, I understand you recently announced a $2 million financing for drilling. So why this focus on the Nunavut Uranium Project?
Well, listen, in the world, there's a lot of these basins, what are called Proterozoic basins. But only 3 of them have economic uranium deposits associated with them. The type of uranium deposit that is called an unconformity uranium deposit and these are very, very high grade deposits. The most prolific, of course, is in the Athabasca Basin of Saskatchewan. And then the other basin that has proven economic deposits is the MacArthur Basin in the Northern Territory of Australia. And the third basin is the Thelon Basin, here, right here in Canada, in Nunavut, in Canada's Arctic. And there is an economic deposit there that we believe is economic, held by Orano, called the Kigavik Uranium Project, and that's the third basin in the world that only hosts an economic deposit of any size, and that's what we're looking for, is a big deposit in the Thelon Basin.
And Rebecca, I wonder if you could provide a little bit more perspective on this as the VP of Exploration. What is it about the project in Nunavut that leads you to believe that the Thelon Basin is analogous to the prolific Athabasca Basin?
Well, a lot of the reasons around it is that the Thelon Basin is a large sandstone basin. It's just like the Athabasca, so more or less is the same type. It's also the same age, so they're pretty old, 1.7 billion years old, and then they overlie rocks in the basement. We call it the basement rocks underneath the sandstone basin, and they're of similar age too in character. And I think the largest and the most important similarity is that you have these large fault zones, and it's the fault zones that channel the fluids and precipitate uranium. And the Thelon Basin has very similar structures that the Athabasca does.
So what are the drilling plans for that Nunavut project in the Thelon Basin?
So we want to do and achieve two things. So the main one is to expand and kind of just start the delineation process on Tatigak. So we already have, an in-house resource of 7 million pounds at the Tatigak zone. And it's a huge anomaly. It's 1.5 kilometers long. It has a lot of room to expand. But for this year, we just want to get into the zones that we already have and basically infill them a bit more. So they were drilled at the end of 2012, and so that was actually the last year that Cameco was up there. And so they're pretty widely spaced drilling. So we're just going to get in there and expand the resource and infill. And then the second thing we're going to do is that we know that in order to get really sustained excitement up in the Thelon Basin, we need to find something big. And so we have all these other targets across the property, and we've chosen two of them that are the most prospective. They're all along a great structure, like I was talking about before, great anomalies, and they're called the Ned and the Bjorn grid. And we're going to get in there and we're going to basically be elephant hunting. We're looking for, we're wanting to try to see if that the Thelon hosts similar size, the high grade, high tonnage deposits that the Athabasca can.
So is how long is that something that you anticipate that you're sort of doing the drilling for the rest of the year? Like, what's the timeline that you're looking at?
For this year, we're just having a small program. So we're going to try to drill about 2,000 meters, and we're going to drill about 4 or 5 holes at Tatigak, and the other 2 holes or 2 or 3 holes we're going to do into some of these other exciting anomalies. And that's going to be done in July of this year. So that's kind of what we're planning on doing.
That's great. And assuming that you find success in your drilling this year, what are the plans going forward?
So the hope is to we're going to expand and basically show that there's mineralization at Tatigak. And so hopefully that gets some excitement going. And then we get, larger budgets. And the real plan is that we'd like to tackle the property with 2 drills. We want to get a camp in there and really ramp up for 2024 and work the property in a real sustained way.
Yeah. I wonder, and Rick, if you want to chime in as well. So, the Athabasca Basin, that's sort of right there. It's proven, it's sort of a mature area, and then the Thelon Basin is here. So what's the implication? I wonder what would that mean for your company if you do find a successful, discovery in the Thelon Basin?
Well, Mary Lynn, we believe that this project up in Nunavut in the Thelon Basin can be a transformative project for the company. We do believe that, as Rebecca mentioned, that the potential for very large uranium deposits exist on the property that we hold. All we have to do is get in there and drill it. But we feel very confident that there's some very big uranium deposits to be found in Nunavut on our Thelon project.
Right, and that's very exciting. And I'm sure the investor community, is going to be looking forward to see some of the results. Like, do you have some timeline on when you expect some results from your exploration will be available?
Well, in July, we'll at the very least, we'll have probe results and scintillometers, so just the devices that measure radioactivity. So we'll be able to give pretty real-time results by at least by the end of July. And then our assay results will probably be more trickling in September, October.
Right. Sounds great. Well, thanks. And we're going to be looking forward to seeing those results. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Mary Lynn.
Okay, thank you, Rick and Rebecca, for joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Join us again next time for another engaging conversation on CEO Insights.